Hey guys, today's episode of Sports Spectrum's podcast is presented by our Sports Spectrum magazine. I got to tell you a quick story on how the Sports Spectrum magazine came into existence. In 1985, Dr. J. Julius Erving, the Pro Basketball Hall of Famer, had this idea in his head to begin a media periodical of sorts that connected sports and family and faith. So the Sport Focus magazine was born in 1985, and Dr. J. Julius Erving was on the cover of the very first issue. Well, a couple of years later, they changed the name from Sport Focus to Sport Spectrum, and here we are, 35 plus years later, and the Sports Spectrum magazine continues to be an incredible resource for people who love sports and love Jesus. And we have a brand new issue out right now with Adam Wainwright on the cover. Adam and his wife, Jenny Wainwright from the St. Louis Cardinals, telling their story on family, marriage, and of course, faith and baseball. We would love for you to be a part of Sports Spectrum's magazine family and subscribe today. We keep it really affordable. $18 for an entire year subscription gets you 4 issues of Sports Spectrum's magazine. It's a great resource to get and to give to someone to maybe get a few issues and go through with your family, with your kids, with a small group, a men's group. The Sports Spectrum magazine is such a great resource. I think it's the best thing that we do here at Sports Spectrum. So I want to encourage you to subscribe today. You can go to sportspectrum.com right now, click that subscribe button at the top of the page, and you're good to go for Sports Spectrum's magazine. I love our magazine. I think you will too. Subscribe today to the Sports Spectrum magazine.
Welcome to the Sports Spectrum podcast, the intersection of sports and faith. Here's your host, Jason Romano.
Hi, everyone. Welcome to Sports Spectrum. I am Jason Romano. Today on the show, we are excited to welcome Carter Coughlin to Sports Spectrum. No relation to Tom Coughlin, but Carter is associated with the same team that Tom Coughlin was associated with for many years. Carter is a linebacker with the New York Giants. Played his college ball at Minnesota, 2-time second team All Big Ten, and then was selected in the 7th round of the 2020 NFL Draft, pick number 218. And the odds are stacked against him there, but he made the roster. He made the active roster in 2020 and in 2021. He had a really cool moment in that 2020 season, even though he was playing in front of 0 fans at MetLife Stadium in New Jersey. But he recorded his first career sack in Week 8 of the 2020 season against the Tampa Bay Buccaneers on Monday Night Football and sacking Tom Brady, the team that would eventually go on and win the Super Bowl in that 2020 COVID year. Last year in 2021, his season was cut short due to injury, but Carter had a really big transformation take place in his life prior to the 2021 season. Imagine it being your second season in the NFL. You have a season that's cut short due to injury, and yet it's the most fun, most satisfying season that he says he's ever had playing football. God did something really great in Carter Coughlin's life, and we're going to hear his story in just a second. He's also a part of a really cool men's conference taking place Saturday, April 23rd, hosted by Tony Dungy, called Arise with the Guys. Carter's going to be there. His dad is actually the director of men's ministry at the church, Grace Church, that's going to be hosting this conference. I'm going to be there as well. I'm really excited to hang out with Paul Allen, who is the voice of the Minnesota Vikings. Ben Roethlisberger is going to be there. Certainly Coach Dungy, Carter Coughlin, our guest today on the podcast. It's going to be a great men's conference, and you can be a part of it as well. 9 to 11 a.m. Central, Saturday, April 23rd. You can sign up to watch online. Bring it to your church. Bring it to your home, to your small group, men's group. You can go to arisewiththeguys.com to learn more. arisewiththeguys.com. Let's get to our conversation with Carter Coughlin, who's just awesome. He joins us right now on Sports Spectrum. Hey, Carter Coughlin, welcome to Sports Spectrum. How are you, sir?
Doing well. How you doing?
I'm doing great. Thanks for being here on the show. Let's start with Arise with the Guys. I've known about this conference for many years over the past, certainly Coach Tony Dungy's involvement in the great work at Grace Church and all the great people there. Your dad, Bob, is a big part of it as well. You're going to be a part of it. Why Arise with the Guys? Why is this such a cool conference to be a part of, and the importance for people to want to get involved? Why is it something that our listenership should say, hey, even if I can't get to Minneapolis, I want to check out Arise with the Guys?
Yeah, I think just because it's a really cool opportunity for guys to connect, and whether that's simply you sitting in your living room listening or actually attending the event, but just connecting on a faith basis, and it's all centered around guys. You know what I mean? Because guys go through different struggles, and community is such a big part, and so just being able to hear the work that done in the lives of different men, and just struggles that a lot of us go through that are the exact same. And we trick ourselves into thinking we're the only ones. We believe the lie of the devil that we're the only ones going through it, but the truth is a bunch of guys are going through that same stuff. And so really just being able to take time and growing together, and celebrating living an uncommon life, celebrating what it looks like to live a life that Jesus wants us to live.
Yeah, Carter will be presenting at Arise with the Guys. It's a men's conference hosted by Tony Dungy. I'll be there as well. So we'll support Spectrum on Saturday, April 23rd from 9 to 11 a.m. Central at Grace Church near Minneapolis. So if you're there, go check it out for sure. I know tickets are at a scarcity right now. There's only a few left, but you can certainly bring it to your church or to your home by going into arisewiththeguys.com. Your dad's involved with this, so I have to imagine this was a conference you've been a part of for a few years, even just attending, right?
Yeah, I've been going to a couple of these. I've seen it in person, seen it virtually, all that kind of stuff. So I'm definitely familiar with the conference, but this is my first time speaking at it in any facet. So
have you done any speaking in terms of sharing your faith from a stage, that type of thing?
A little bit in high school. I shared my testimony on Instagram, and that's honestly probably the most real and kind of in-depth, faith sharing, testimony sharing, whatever kind of quote unquote stage that I've talked about.
Well, it's a different stage, right? It's not in front of, say, 5,000 guys, but it's on Instagram where, let's be honest here, you're going to reach even more than that. Let's go there.
Right.
Tell me about why it was important for you to share your testimony and choosing a place like Instagram.
Yeah. I went through a really big transition after my rookie year in the NFL. Rookie year just came with a crazy amount of struggles, and a new level of struggles. I thought college had temptations, but it was amplified tenfold when I got to the NFL. And up until that point, there was a lot of my life that I was waffling between chasing after the world and chasing after Jesus. And so when all those temptations and pressures hit my rookie year, in a sense, I for my faith. I wasn't pursuing my relationship with Jesus. Yeah, I still believed, this and that, but if you're not growing, you're getting further away from Jesus. And I was the furthest I'd ever been at the end of that year. And in just a crazy way, through digging into the Word and prayer, God completely grabbed a hold of my heart and just shed light on the areas of my life that I was holding on to for myself, and the way that all came crashing down. And when God asks for our heart, He asks for all of us. He doesn't ask for the parts we want to give. And when we only give Him the parts we want to give, we lose out on the incredible life that God has in store for us. A life that's purpose driven, a life that we have hope in, that we have confidence knowing that a sovereign creator, sovereign God that holds everything together is actively pursuing us, is active in our life. And so when when God hit me with that and literally drastically changed the way I was living, drastically changed the way I was thinking, all of it, I wanted to bring that to Instagram and let the world know that number one, that I'm flawed, but number two, that I'm forgiven, and that's the exact same thing for anybody that's listening. You know, we all go through things, we all mess up, and that's why we all need a savior.
Carter, you mentioned struggles. You mentioned a difficult season of life for you. As comfortable as you are, as authentic and real as you want to be, what were some of those struggles that you went through?
Yeah, for sure. To be completely honest with you, I don't have any shame in it. And so I'm comfortable sharing anything, because the truth is, if I really believe what I believe to be true, it's that I'm messed up and I need a savior, just like all of us are. And, you know, we can put on this front, we can put on this mask that we've all got it all figured out and stuff. But I don't care who you are, you're going through something, you're struggling with something. And so for me, at the time, this was, you know, I think, honestly, I think everything was rooted in pride. You know, I look at my life, and this was the first time that I had money of my own. You know, it's the attention you get from women being in the league. I mean, it's you know, you think being a college athlete is close. I mean, it's not even close compared to when you make it to the NFL. So, you know, women, money, you know, even you know, like smoking weed because I was so stressed out and whatever. I mean, just truthfully, I was looking for satisfaction and fulfillment any way I could get it, and everything I tried outside of the Lord was leaving me, you know, so empty. And I think that's just the truth of life. You know, we look for all these different ways to fill these needs, whether we acknowledge it or not. And they give us, you know, at times instantaneous happiness, but then that happiness fades away and we're left way lower than we were before. And so for me, you know, it came in different shapes and sizes, but I think those were, you know, a couple of the big ones. And really at the core of it was rooted in my own pride, because I thought I was something because football made me something.
Yeah, that makes sense. Carter Coughlin is our guest here on Sports Spectrum from the New York Giants. He's a linebacker there, 7th round selection in 2020. Tell me about the moment when you recognized that you were, I wouldn't call it rock bottom, maybe you would, but you recognize something's not right here. And it's a rededication because you grew up in the church. Your dad's a pastor. He's still a pastor at Grace Church, as we mentioned earlier. So where's the moment or moments when you say, you know what, something's got to change here. This just something. I got to go back to where I knew, where those roots were planted many years ago.
Yeah. You know, I'd say when I came home from the season, I knew that I wasn't the man I wanted to be. I knew I wasn't where I wanted to be, where God called me to be. And so did my parents. And my dad sat me down and, you know, kind of had a big boy conversation with me before I was heading out to California to go train. And you know, I heard everything he was saying and I agreed with him. But then California was not the right place for me personally to go, understanding, you know, where I currently was. And so I, you know, I go out there, I continue indulging in sin and all that kind of stuff. And I got back to Minnesota, and I remember just sitting there the day I got back, just thinking about, you know, what the last 6 weeks had looked like. And I'm sitting there thinking, you know, based on what the world tells me, I should be the happiest I've ever been. You know, I'm a young guy. I've got money. I'm literally living out my dream, playing football. You know, all the other struggles I talked about, girls, you know, whatever. And I'm not. Like, based on what the world tells me, this is what quote unquote success looks like. I should be the happiest I've ever been. Why do I feel so empty? Why is none of this filling me? And asking that question, I already knew the answer. I've known the answer. And the answer is that the truth is, in all of us, God creates this gap that needs to be filled by him. And it's our choice whether we want to fill that longing with God, the only true, sustainment, or we want to chase after what the world has lined up for us, and it leaves us empty. And so I think asking that question and then already knowing the answer, and then literally just opening up my Bible and praying and allowing God to show up in the craziest way, because that's exactly what he does. That's what God does. That's who God is. And my transformation has nothing to do with me. It has everything to do with God completely changing my heart.
So how do you view football now compared to a couple years ago?
Oh man, last year was I got hurt halfway through the season, but last year was the most fun year I've ever had playing football, because literally like during camp, when it's the biggest grind, you're like, man, like I do not want to be out here for another second. I would start the practice by just going down on a knee and thanking God for the opportunity. And it just completely changed my perspective. Just the truth of God has us all placed where we are for a reason that's way beyond our job. So for me, last year was a year where I got to use that opportunity, use my platform to have gospel conversations with teammates. So no joke, within the first night of me getting back to New Jersey and turning down drinking and stuff like that, when I was with my teammates, I had more conversations about Jesus in that first night than I had the entire rookie year prior. No joke, in one night. And and so God just opened my eyes to, dude, this is your purpose. This is why you're here. It's so much bigger than football. And it's been really cool to see him build upon that, for me to develop relationships with teammates. And, today we just started our off-season Bible study, and we had, upwards of 11 guys show up, and more that are going to come through next week. And, I'll preface on us being able to hold each other accountable, be real, and study the word together. And so it's God has just made it so clear to me that his vision for my life, his plan for my life is so much bigger than football. And it's so easy for us to get sucked into exactly what we're doing, because the truth is the devil doesn't need to defeat us. He just needs to distract us. So we can get so distracted by our jobs, by whatever, and completely lose sight of the incredible things that God has in store for us.
Can you look back on your rookie year and find positives? I see you get your first sack, career sack on Monday Night Football against Tom Brady, right? And like, that's a moment that that you'll always have as a football player. That's a moment that people will ask you about. Little kids will say, hey, I remember I saw you sack the GOAT, Tom Brady, on Monday Night Football. So you don't want to diminish the moments that you've been able to have. But 2020 was what you just described it as. It was a miserable year for you. It was a very tough year, but you also got to fulfill a dream. Can you look back on that year and see things like the sack on Brady, or just making the team as a 7th round pick and being a part of an NFL franchise in your first year? Can you look back and find positives in all that?
Oh, absolutely. At the end of the day, I've played football since 3rd grade, and I absolutely love football. So regardless of what it looked like, it truly was living out a dream, running out of the tunnel for the first time. And we didn't even have fans my rookie year, but the feeling running out in that first game was surreal. And so moments like that, sacking Tom Brady, or when we played the Seahawks and I had a really, really good game, and all that kind of stuff. I can definitely look at it and from a football perspective, see positives.
Carter Coughlin is our guest here on Sports Spectrum. A couple more questions with Carter. So your Instagram page, you talked about sharing your testimony there. Your Instagram page says you are flawed, forgiven, and free. So tell me why you shared those words on your Instagram page and what it means to you now.
Yeah. As I shared, pride was the root of my struggles. And And the truth is, if you're a Christian, if you're a follower of Jesus, you shouldn't be prideful because you have nothing to boast in. You have nothing to boast in salvation or this world or anything, because we know that all gifts are from the Lord. And we know that salvation is solely through Jesus. And we need a savior. And so that leaves us with nothing to boast in. We know that we're flawed. I know that I'm flawed. And that's why I need a savior. And then the second part, forgiven. I know that I am redeemed through the blood of Jesus, that I have positional holiness in the eyes of God because Jesus died for me, because Jesus has forgiven my sins, past, present, and future. And then free. In this world, truly, the only freedom I think we actually get to experience is the freedom that comes from submitting to God's will and giving him control. We like to think we're in control. We like to try to grab hold of our lives and think that we get to plan it out, this and that, and then crazy stuff hits, and we realize that we're not in control. But the truth is, God is in control of everything. So, true freedom is submitting to God's will and acknowledging that God is in control. And because of that, we get to live freely to serve the Lord, honor him, give him our lives. But truthfully, just live with that understanding and that faith that God holds everything together.
Carter, if you're talking to the Carter Coughlin from the 2020 NFL draft, which was pretty much the most bizarre draft we'll ever see, hopefully in our lifetime, the virtual COVID-affected NFL draft, what do you think you'd say to that person? Or even better, what would you say to the Carter Coughlin here in 2022 that's trying to get drafted, that's waiting for an opportunity in a week and a half, a couple weeks, to potentially get selected into the NFL? What would you say to that Carter Coughlin who got drafted in 2020, or the draftee that's hoping for an opportunity to start an NFL professional football career in a week or two?
Yeah. I would say just that, number one, enjoy the moment, enjoy being drafted, enjoy signing with the team if you're undrafted, whatever. But then just to keep into perspective that life is way bigger than football. If life was what we make it, just in terms of being so football driven in this industry, if that's all that life has in store, then, this NFL not for long career, it's gonna leave us with a really, really sucky life for the rest of our lives. So just that understanding and that mentality that life is bigger than football. Of course you work as hard as you can, you maximize the gifts that God's given you, all that kind of stuff. But at the end of the day, your worth is not defined by how you perform on a football field.
Who was one of the guys or a couple people with the Giants that's really helped you, over the past year or so, encouraged you, even worked through discipleship, Bible studies? Who are some of those people that have really been an encouragement to you?
Yeah, my dog, Nate Solder, he wasn't with us in 2020 just because of the COVID deal. And so then before he came back in 2021, I reached out to him after God had changed me from the inside out, and was like, dude, I just want to share with you what I've gone through this last year, and shared that, and then shared where my heart was and what God's been doing in my life and stuff. And then, he came alongside me last year and poured into me. And I also got to do that for him too. And, he's in a little different stage of life. He's got 3 kids right now. He was, I think last year was year 13 maybe or something like that, and I'm going into year 3 right now. So, and so he had lived it out. He had experienced different things. And so it was awesome having him, just be a part of my journey and being a brother I could count on, all that kind of stuff.
Yeah, Nate's great. I mean, he's been on this show multiple times and is one of the most humble athletes I've ever met when you consider how massive of a human he is and how great of a player he was in winning Super Bowls and certainly all the accolades that he's had. He's about as humble a guy as you'll ever meet in the league, isn't he?
Seriously, he really is.
Carter, thanks for being here, buddy. Thanks for joining us. We're excited to see you at Arise with the Guys, and I'm looking forward to seeing you share your testimony, because I'm sure it's some of what you shared here. When people hear that in person, they're going to be moved by it, man. They really are. And hearing it from an NFL player and somebody who's been involved in Grace Church for a long time, it'll be really neat to watch the reaction and see what the audience and how they respond, I guess, to hearing you share your testimony in the gospel. So excited for that. Again, people can go to arisewiththeguys.com to learn more. It's April 23rd, Saturday, April 23rd. Ben Roethlisberger is going to be honored there with the Uncommon Award. Tony Dungy, one of the hosts there. I'm fortunate and thankful to be a part of that as well. It's going to be a great time. I hope people can go check it out. Carter, thanks for being here, buddy. Thanks for coming on the show, and hopefully we'll do it again, maybe in person next year. We'll see.
Thanks so much for inviting me on.
And many thanks to Carter Coughlin for being here today on Sports Spectrum. What a story, right? I mean, just imagine all that he's been through in the last couple of years, and thinking about the seeds that were planted by his dad and by his family for many years, growing up in the church, and then having that professional football life come at you in a major way with those temptations and the struggles that he explained through his rookie year, and then God getting a hold of him. And it's never too late to run back to God. I'm sure he relates to the prodigal son story quite a bit when I hear his testimony, and I can't wait for Carter Coughlin to share that testimony at Arise with the Guys as well, this men's conference. Guys, if you don't know about this, or if you haven't signed up for it yet, go check out arisewiththeguys.com. Tony Dungy is hosting this event. It's going to be awesome. It's going to be at Grace Church in Minneapolis on that Saturday, April 23rd. You can come in person if you're anywhere near Minneapolis, but if you want to watch online, you can do it that way as well. You can bring it to your church. You can bring it to your small group, your men's group. You can even watch it from your house. Just go to arisewiththeguys.com to learn more. Arisewiththeguys.com. I can't wait to be there in person and be a part of this amazing event and shake Carter Coughlin's hand in person, because what a story he has. Just 24 years old, and God's got great plans for Carter Coughlin's life. So we appreciate him. Again, check out arisewiththeguys.com to learn more about the conference. And then make sure whatever app you're listening to this podcast on, you click subscribe or follow. That way you never miss an episode of Sports Spectrum's podcast. 3 to 4 episodes every single week, and the best way to never miss an episode is to click follow or subscribe on whatever app you're listening to this show on. Check out our website, sportspectrum.com, for all of our content. And then do join us next time for another episode right here on Sports Spectrum. Have a great rest of your day. Stay safe, and we'll see you soon here on Sports Spectrum.